Hello. Today I'm going to talk with you about online EMDR therapy, whether it's effective, how it works, and hopefully answer any questions you might have about starting. Hi, I'm Emma Coble. I'm a licensed professional counselor and I worked with clients in Colorado and in Florida. So, if you have anxiety, trauma, if you've just gone through something hard like a big life transition, maybe a breakup, um, you may have heard about EMDR therapy. And EMDR therapy is an incredibly effective therapy that's used not just for trauma, and it is the most research backed modality for treating trauma that we have because it's somatic. It works with our bodies, and I'll describe that a little bit more. It's not just about sort of staying on the surface and understanding things rationally and cognitively, which other therapies help us do. EMDR therapy allows us to go deep and heal the root of trauma. So, EMDR therapy is not only effective for trauma, though, it's also really effective for things like anxiety, things like um, processing life changes and life transitions. Maybe processing things that maybe you don't even count it necessarily as trauma, but things that occurred in your early life or in your early childhood that remained with you. Um, excuse me. It can be helpful for depression. It can be helpful for many issues that people struggle with. Um, and so I highly recommend it if you've done talk therapy potentially for a while, even if you haven't, but if you're looking to go a little deeper and heal some wounds that you feel like are kind of beneath the surface, where you feel like you've kind of spun your wheels a little bit with talk therapy, like yeah, you understand maybe, for example, that you're hard on yourself, but you just can't seem to kick it. EMDR therapy is a thing that is another helpful tool for getting deeper and healing some of those wounds. So, okay, so what exactly is EMDR therapy? So, EMDR therapy it involves the use of bilateral movement, bilateral stimulation, to help desensitize you and your brain to various phobias, anxieties, traumas that you may have experienced in your life. And so, for example, this might look like bilateral tapping that you conduct kind of on yourself. It might look like you're following a movement with your eyes, like a ball that goes back and forth across the screen. It might look like alternating sounds in your ears. The founder of EMDR actually discovered this modality while walking. She realized she was able to process like a cancer diagnosis she got better while walking. So it allows your brain to, you're pulling up like a negative image or memory or cognition about yourself as you are engaged in this bilateral stimulation. And so what happens is engages both sides of your brain. Your brain is able to process and store a memory as a long-term memory so that you're no longer constantly triggered by it. And you start to really feel the changes like inside your body. You start to feel different. So EMDR therapy, it's an 8-phase model. We start out with a lot of like understanding kind of the history of maybe your traumas, as well as doing some work to like get to know each other and like develop some tools like a safe place and a container and an ally, these resources that are going to help you as you go deeper into your EMDR journey and you're processing things that might be heavy or might be hard. So how you might wonder, like, especially if you've been kind of thinking about EMDR, you've come across some therapists, you might wonder like, well, what about online EMDR? Like, I'm seeing a lot of people do that. How does that work? Is that as effective? And these are all great questions. So with EMDR therapy online, you might engage in that tapping like we talked about, or you'll probably have the option to follow a ball that moves back and forth across the screen. A lot of therapists use like a software that they can control the ball, the speed of the ball. They also may incorporate like an audio element to that as well. I have the option in my practice for all of those things, whatever kind of works for a client. And, with a good therapist, they will tailor it to you. They will check in about what you like, what's working, what's not working. And feel free, by the way, to like speak up to your therapist if like you're realizing like, hey, I really can't focus as deeply when I'm following the ball. I'd like to try tapping, for instance. So why is EMDR so effective online? And it is just as effective online. I've had amazing success with it online in my practice, which is all online. The first thing is you're in your own safe environment. So oftentimes we get kind of activated, like traveling to a new space, like being in a new space, even traffic, parking, like all that stuff can get us kind of flustered. Being in the safe environment and also doing this learning in the environment you live in can be really effective at like helping you kind of remake this space different, remake your patterns different in this space. And you can also like bring things like, you can be in your own bed, you can have your own like, if you have a special blanket or something like that, like nearby, you can have that for the sessions, which is really nice. It also just makes it a lot easier to access therapy. Scheduling is a lot easier. It makes you more consistent with going to EMDR, which is the most important part of this, is you being consistent and having this regularly. This leads to more momentum and then better outcomes. As well as the fact that, I mentioned this kind of before, like being in your own safe environment, it can feel just like a lot, sometimes that barrier of like the screen can feel like it allows a little more freedom for you to feel and process, and sometimes it can actually allow for more vulnerability, I found in sessions at times, as well as remembering that like, again, your therapist will work with you. This is not a one size fits all approach. You can experiment and play around and find the things that do and don't work for you. So if you're considering EMDR, it can help with, some of the things we talked about before. It can help with sexual trauma, child abuse or neglect, relationship wounds, healing your inner child, anxiety and panic attacks and grief, as well as impulse kind of control issues like binge eating or drinking, things like that. And remember that it is very different from talk therapy. It's very structured. It really does work with your body, and it heals trauma in the body. So if you are spinning your wheels with talk therapy, if you are ready to go deeper, I highly recommend EMDR, and online EMDR is an amazing option. And if you do live in Colorado or Florida and you are interested, reach out. I offer free consultations, and I hope you have a great day.